It all starts when the protagonist's friend asks him what he thinks is the strong point of his novel. Hearing this, Yul says he's already started talking about the same old frustrating topic. That guy over there is Kim Shin, a novelist that the protagonist is trying to console so he doesn't give up because of a flopped piece. Kim Shin slams the table in anger and says it wasn't just a flop, freaking out Yul, who's been his only fan from the start. Yul became his drinking buddy out of pity, mostly because the author named the protagonist of the story after him. He objectively admits that his friend's writing is very good and that the world building is full of details. However, Ju tells him that the title is way too generic, adding that the work seems like a copycat full of cliches. It's like almost every other Hackney story out there. Kim Shin lets out a long, defeated sigh and admits he understands the problem, confessing that's exactly why he called him to talk right after. He asks the protagonist what he would do if he were in his shoes and what is the one thing he would change in the story if he could. The young man responds without hesitation that the first thing he would do is get rid of that damn status window that everyone uses. If it were me, the first thing I'd do is fill it with gorgeous girls, and the harder they are to win over, the better. Yul notices the author coming up with theories about how the protagonist would be free without the system's limitations, and finds the situation amusing. The kid warns him not to take the joke so seriously, but suddenly, he feels a strange discomfort and gets confused. He wonders why he suddenly feels so sleepy. Kim Shin notices the strange reaction and calls out to his friend as he sees him about to pass out. The writer panics and shouts, asking if he's okay, as the guy faints. With his vision completely blurred, Yul realizes he's losing consciousness entirely and can't react. Kim Shin stands there, staring at him in a weird way, and asks with a smile on his face, "What's going on?" Little by little, the protagonist loses consciousness, and after a while, the guy finally starts to open his eyes. Upon waking up in a bed, he tries to figure out how he got home and complains about a terrible headache after fainting. Thirsty as hell, he heads straight for the fridge and downs a cold bottle of water to try and shake off the discomfort. The guy realizes the situation is pretty bad and decides he needs to go out and buy some medicine to ease his discomfort. He heads out of the house and starts walking down the city streets towards a nearby convenience store. The cashier scans the item and tells him that the medicine for his discomfort costs 5,000 won. He thinks it's a price. It's ridiculously expensive, and he panics when he realizes his wallet isn't in any of his pockets. But what really intrigues him is the extremely passionate and fixed stare the cashier is giving him. The guy asks if there's something wrong with his face, but the young woman responds, delighted that he is incredibly handsome. He's blown away by never having heard a compliment like that, while she asks if the payment will be made through the state app. I've never heard anything like that either. Should I be worried? Julie is confused by the term she used and starts to think that he is still half asleep from the drink. Embarrassed for not having money, he says he will return later and quickly leaves the store while the girl bids him farewell affectionately. The guy thinks it's really weird that they called him handsome right after waking up and decides he needs to figure out what he looks like now. As he approaches a parked black car, he tries to see his own reflection in the glass and gets a huge fright. To see the details more clearly, he leans in even closer to the rearview mirror. The reflection reveals a young man with brown hair and very pronounced double eyelids. In addition to a well-defined nose and jaw, he realizes with absolute shock that this face is exactly the same as the protagonist of the novel written by his friend. Admiring every detail of his new face in the rearview mirror, the guy can't help but admit that he's become incredibly handsome. Yul pinches himself on the cheek to check if he's dreaming, but the sharp pain confirms that this whole situation is real. Suddenly, he opens his eyes in shock, noticing something totally out of the ordinary happening right above him. A colossal and majestic tree towers over the city skyscrapers, reaching for the clouds. The young man freezes, noticing that the giant tree in Seoul is the same tree from the world described in his friend's nearby novel. He hears two guys talking about how one of them will enter the superhuman academy to outdo his own brother. The kid extends his hand with pride and summons a bright floating screen from the system before everyone's eyes on the street. The kid grins as he equips his main weapon through the virtual system, materializing a blue-thorn club. He proudly declares that he will be a master of weapons, but his friend mocks, saying that it's just a cheap errant weapon, good for nothing. The kid starts bawling, saying his grandma bought the thing with so much love so he could become a great hero like his brother. The friend tries to console him, saying that the weapon is actually pretty cool, but the upset kid chucks the spiked club behind him, not caring where it lands. The weapon flies through the air and ends up hitting the head of a pigeon on the sidewalk, leaving the bird totally confused. Yahello watches everything stunned and is absolutely certain that he has reincarnated as the protagonist of his friend's story. A mother calls her kids in a hurry to not miss the World Tree Festival, leaving Yahello quite alert. Remember that the festival happens right at the start of the story, which means he hasn't unlocked his secret status window yet, trying to keep his cool amidst all these thoughts. The kid decides he has to stick to the original plot of the novel as closely as possible. Take a deep breath and walk determinedly towards the festival to start his plan. That secret ability is super powerful and boosts the protagonist's attributes 9 times faster than normal. As soon as he arrives at the festival, a very kind old lady greets him cheerfully and pays him a compliment. The old lady offers him a warm, leaf-shaped bread, baked especially for the celebration. The kid asks for the price, and she says it's 2,001 for 3 pieces, but decides to give him 1 for free because he's so nice. Yahello starts to sweat from nerves and admits to the vendor that he is completely broke at the moment. The kind old lady says not to worry and asks him to just use the virtual payment system through his status window. Embarrassed, he makes up an excuse saying he's out of funds and promises to come back later, since he still doesn't have an active status window. To his complete surprise, the elderly woman extends her hands and hands him the bag full of warm bread. She gives him a gentle smile and tells him not to worry about the money and to just accept the snack as a gift. The boy tries to politely refuse the gift, but the old lady insists lovingly that he just eats and enjoys it. The old lady tells him that he reminds her of her own son, and since it's a holiday, she just wants him to enjoy the food. Julie is moved by the fact that she hasn't received so much affection in her old life and thinks that maybe this new world isn't so bad. However, the old lady secretly worries, wondering how a young and handsome guy like him doesn't have 2,001s in his pocket. The celebration continues lively around the immense mystical tree that adorns the center of the entire shopping plaza. Sitting calmly on a wooden bench, Yahello takes a bite of the bread and is amazed by the incredible taste. The soft bread is filled with a delicious cream that evokes the freshness of a forest, making him praise the cooking of that fantasy world, with his heart comforted by the delicious food. He seriously thinks he would like to live in that place forever. Just then, he spots a trio of young people walking and chatting excitedly near the safety railings. Yahello watches them intently from afar and instantly recognizes who they are. The first is Ha Si-hyun, a cheerful girl with a distinctive haircut and light blue eyes. The second is Kim Chil-jin, a stylish guy who always wears a headband and has a smirk. And lastly, Choi-hun, a tall guy with a sharp gaze and an imposing stance who looks like he's loaded. The kid is stunned as he realizes that those are exactly the supporting characters described in detail in his friend's novel. He thinks about going over to talk to the group, knowing that in the original book they weren't supposed to meet before a terrible tragedy happened. However, a chill runs down his spine as he realizes a terrifying detail he had forgotten. He desperately remembers that the crucial event, where the protagonist awakens his S-rank power, is exactly that terrible tragedy. Before he can take another step, a deafening explosion happens right behind him, setting the sky ablaze. People around start screaming in panic and run desperately away from the devastating fire. The kid freezes, shocked to realize he had completely ignored the imminent danger of that attack. He realizes in the worst way possible that he will have to experience firsthand all the brutal events described in the play. The first major arc of the story, known as the terrible tragedy of the World Tree, has just begun. From above, the fearsome enemy lets out an evil laugh as he calls all the present fools drunk on peace. The masked villain floats in his ship and menacingly proclaims that the hour of final judgment has finally arrived. The man in purple attire and eccentric appearance exudes a terrifying madness through his red glasses and cold voice. That man is known as the Inventor, the worst villain in history and the sole mastermind behind all this tragedy. The lunatic keeps cackling in the air as the flames start to quickly consume everything around him. Jihyun appears running, crashes into the frozen protagonist, and screams at him to stop chewing on the bread and get the hell out of there. The group of heroes takes the lead and screams at everyone to evacuate the place immediately, helping those who ended up on the ground. Seo Julie is stunned by their bravery and wonders why the hell he ended up in such a dangerous place right after reincarnating. From the top of the enormous burning tree, the villain's wicked laughter echoes as people desperately run to save their lives. Seo Yul freaks out as he realizes that reading about a tragedy in a novel is completely different from having to face it in real life. Meanwhile, Chil-jin quickly opens his status window and inventory to try to prepare for the fight. The kid equips the magical glove, aquamarine embrace, and insults the villain, asking if he's lost his mind attacking a festival full of civilians. With a swift motion, the young man channels a powerful, bright blue energy sphere into his hand to strike. Just then, several elite warriors appear to confront the inventor, drawing the dangerous criminal's attention. The swordsman of the group says that the villain must really want to lose his life by attacking unarmed civilians in the middle of the city and in broad daylight. Seo Yul recognizes the top-tier warriors from the Bihan Guild and the Mantra team, while Chil-jin tells the civilians to get out of there right away. The kid is terrified as he remembers that the villain's real target isn't who they think it is, while the inventor just laughs loudly. The masked man questions their claim of attacking civilians and reveals that his true objective there is something very different. With a supremely sinister look, glowing through the red lenses, the villain proclaims that his target is absolutely everyone at the festival without wasting any time. The mad scientist presses a button on his metal device to activate his worst weapon. A massive and terrifying red energy sphere begins to float in the sky, spreading harmful magnetic waves across the area. The hunters activate their protective magics and try to imbue their weapons with fire, swearing they'll take down the villain before any of his plans come to fruition. Suddenly, a weird static interference causes all of their magical energy to fail and disappear mysteriously. Everyone starts to fall to their knees, completely weakened and desperate as they realize their status windows just won't open. Even Chil-jin collapses, weakened and confused, as the villain laughs triumphantly. The inventor mocks the warriors for having spent their entire lives relying on their status windows to have power. He presents his state disruptor and orders everyone to kneel before the power of his system interference. The villain celebrates for having cracked the system code, declaring that humanity will now be freed from the tyranny of the status windows once and for all. The gigantic red barrier expands rapidly, covering the entire world tree and trapping everyone inside. The inventor swoops down and asks the hunters what it feels like to know that their power never truly belonged to them. Grabs the swordswoman by the chin and cruelly demands that she answer his question. Hiding behind a column, Seo Yul knows he needs to act. Since in the original novel, the protagonist intervenes at this exact moment, not relying on a status window. Since the girl doesn't say anything, the villain tosses small mechanical spheres on the ground, claiming that this weakness is her true nature. In the blink of an eye, the spheres explode violently, taking out several helpless hunters. The remaining civilians watch that brutal scene, completely horrified and unable to do anything to help. Seo Julie is utterly terrified by the real violence unfolding right before his own eyes. He curls up on the floor, shaking with fear, trying to hold his breath so as not to be discovered by the villain. The kid realizes in desperation that if he tries to play the hero, he'll end up losing his life for real, since he doesn't feel up to being the protagonist. Nearby, Chil-jin begs for his life on his knees, sobbing that he has a fiancée waiting for him at home. Unexpectedly, Choi Joo-hyun comes running from behind the villain. With his massive sword raised to strike, Joo-hyun lets out a furious roar as he tries to put all his strength into cutting the enemy by surprise. However, the inventor easily dodges and kicks the kid hard in the chest, sending him flying backwards. The villain is impressed to see the kid manage to lift a sword like that, even without the system's strength bonus, praising his willpower. As the kid tries to drag himself across the floor, the mad scientist wonders if he was less affected by the interference and decides to take him as a test subject. Sayo Julie grabs his head in desperation, knowing he needs to wake up his powers somehow, but he just can't do it. Overwhelmed by the panic of losing his life in that place, he decides he can't be the hero of the story and starts running away. He curses as he flees, trying to convince himself that the story will resolve itself, even without his intervention. He tries to convince himself that all this madness is just a dream or something unreal, but the pain and fear prove otherwise. Halfway there, the boy suddenly stops running when he spots a person lying motionless right in front of him. It's the kind old lady from the bakery, lying lifeless on the asphalt, next to the snacks she had given him as a gift with so much love. Sayo Yo's heart races with anguish, and he freezes completely at the horrifying sight. The image of the kind old lady who had been so nice to him stirs a deep sense of rage within the young man. Meanwhile, outside the barrier, people look on in fear, unable to grasp what kind of weird energy pulse is blocking the festival entrance. The leader of the Bijon Guild shows great concern for her members trapped in there, but her assistant tries to reassure her, saying that their warriors are strong. She tries to convince herself that her elite hunters are, no doubt, taking down the villain and rescuing all the civilians at this very moment. But the reality inside is brutal, with the inventor lifting Jihin by the neck and warning him that he'll take him to his personal lab. The villain shows a maniacal smile and says he's eager to crack open the kid's brain and study it at his leisure. Suddenly, a firm and determined hand emerges from the smoke and grips tightly the hilt of the massive sword lying on the ground. Sayo Yul appears right behind the villain with a determined look, ready to finally step in and put an end to this monster's reign of terror. The inventor's eyes widen as he suddenly notices someone attacking him from behind. Sayo Yul advances with determination and lands a powerful blow using the massive sword against the dangerous opponent. The kid makes a face of pure physical exertion as he tries to land that blow with the heavy weapon. The mad scientist floats back on his platform and questions in surprise how the kid wasn't affected by his interference. Staring at the protagonist with his red glasses, he demands to know who the hell that kid is. Sayo Yul curses mentally for not having taken down the opponent with that first surprise attack. He realizes in horror that if he continues fighting like this without powers, he will be the one to end up losing his life here. The villain starts to analyze the situation and wonders if the kid has some ancient relic equipped, but he quickly dismisses the idea. With his hands wrapped in red lightning, the inventor declares that the protagonist is the perfect subject for his studies. As the villain prepares, the kid gets into a defensive stance, sword in hand, to protect Jihin, who is lying on the floor. Jihoon watches the scene in total shock, trying to figure out who this kid is and how he can move around freely. The inventor swoops down from his flying platform, attacking the boy, who defends himself despite his clumsy stance. Suddenly, bright and colorful sparks start to fly around Sayo Yul's hands as he grips the weapon's handle. The two exchange intense blows, while Jihin wonders how the kid manages to wield that heavy sword that requires high strength. The kid grits his teeth in pure agony and wonders when the hell his secret status window is finally going to wake up. The villain takes advantage of the distraction to kick the sword away with extreme ease, disarming the boy immediately. Lands a direct hit to Sayo Yul's chest with his claws charged with red electricity. The blow sends the protagonist violently backward as he lets out a cry of pain. Falling to the ground and spitting blood, he feels terrible pain and realizes he's about to die for real. The inventor lifts the kid up by the neck and gloats, saying he found a valuable and unexpected loophole in the system. As he stares into Sayo Yul's face, the villain notices something familiar and is intrigued by what he sees. The mad scientist lets out a hysterical laugh as he finally understands what's going on here. He activates his flying platform and announces that he needs to return to the lab immediately to dissect him right away. Even gasping for air, the kid flat out refuses to let that creep take him to be a lab rat. With his last bit of strength, he kicks the villain's chest with all his might. The hit works, and the boy breaks free, but now he starts to fall freely towards the tree's abyss. As he falls, the boy reflects that he felt happy for a brief moment, thinking he would be the great hero of a novel. However, that whole near-death experience turned into the worst nightmare of his life. He closes his eyes, devastated, accepting that his journey is about to end in a tragic way. Suddenly, a massive bright screen filled with system error messages starts to emerge around him. The boy opens his eyes in the middle of that digital glow, revealing golden pupils completely illuminated. He sees himself floating in a vast white space, enveloped by a very soft green magical aura. Sayo looks intrigued at his own hands as he feels a comforting energy circling through his body. At that moment, the translucent, radiant figure of a beautiful elf materializes right behind him. She floats majestically, dressed in classic white robes and displaying long, pointed ears of a mystical creature. The elf gently extends her hand towards the young man, causing a small greenish orb of light to float between them. He reaches out his own hand to touch the magical glow offered by the mysterious creature. The mystical orb settles perfectly in his palm, filling the boy with immense power. The light begins to quickly take shape, transforming into a magnificent golden bow in his hands. A massive flash consumes all the space, as the mystical elf grants her ancient blessing to the boy. Back in the real world, the inventor is completely blown away by that green glow and says that's impossible. The villain notices in horror that the protagonist is floating and somehow resonating directly with the power of the world tree. The kid lands impressively on the ground, enveloped by green rays of pure energy that scare the enemy even more. In his left hand, he grips a golden mystical bow with intricate carvings that emit a bright light. Sayo pulls the string of the golden bow, materializing a powerful, luminous energy arrow. With a cold, focused gaze, she takes aim with deadly precision, right at the mad scientist. The inventor recognizes the elven mark and the ancient relic in his hands, starting to panic as he deduces the meaning of it. Despite the shock, the lunatic grins in ecstasy, realizing that his life's work was, in fact, correct. Sayo keeps his sights locked on the target as the villain points at him in a complete trance. The golden arrow slices through the air at an absurd speed towards the villain, who screams in awe that the kid is the one who transcended the system's barriers. The villain lets out a gasp of terror as the brilliant golden arrow hits him squarely, screams in agony as the force of the impact destroys his flying device and sends him crashing to the ground. The magical arrow pierces the mechanical core, causing a massive energy overload. A massive explosion consumes the entire area, instantly dissipating the red barrier that had trapped everyone. Falling on the asphalt, Jahan struggles to lift his head to see who pulled off that legendary featuring. The young hero floats majestically in the air, holding his mystical bow, glowing with the green aura. However, his vision starts to blur and he feels his strength fading fast. Unable to bear the exhaustion from his wounds, Juhin finally closes his eyes and faints to the ground. The magical aura begins to fade, and the golden bow vanishes as the boy falls unconscious to the ground. He manages to land wobbling, but extreme exhaustion takes over his entire body. Too weak to even stand, the boy falls back, leaving a trail of green magical leaves. With the end of the fight, the sky begins to clear, and the people not quite relieved that the terrible pulse of energy has vanished. The rescue and security squads swiftly advance into the festival grounds to provide aid. The rescuers confirm multiple casualties and call for doctors as they see even the elite hunters were taken down by the villain. The butler tries to restrain the young heiress, desperately warning that the area can still be extremely dangerous. But she completely ignores the warnings and dashes forward at full speed, gripping her hunting bow. The young blonde is absolutely certain that this brutal attack was orchestrated by the feared villain inventor. With tears in her eyes and full of spite, she swears she'll take down that monster with her own hands. However, she suddenly stops running when she notices something strange glowing near the roots of the giant tree. Tiny green magical particles begin to float around the massive trunk. The young woman freezes completely as she finds herself surrounded by that mysterious and comforting glow. Her eyes begin to glow intensely in a golden hue as she tunes into that spiritual energy. Nearby, Seo remains knocked out and unconscious on the grass, surrounded by floating leaves. The young woman walks slowly towards the boy, who is lying in the center of a circle of spiritual energy, appears to be sleeping peacefully. while the energy of nature continues to envelop his chest. Meanwhile, several error screens pop up in the virtual system, trying to fix a major glitch with the digital vaccine. Suddenly, the boy slowly opens his eyes, gradually regaining consciousness. He lets out a low groan as he realizes he's lying in a comfortable hospital bed. The kid brings his hand to his forehead due to a pounding headache as he tries to sit up on the gurney. He looks around, totally confused, and notices he's in a modern, quiet hospital room. When he touches his forehead and feels the real pain, he realizes that none of that was just a dream. His last clear memory, before passing out, was receiving a mysterious power from a beautiful elf-like creature. He also remembers using that power to take down the feared villain once and for all. The kid panics as he realizes the story has changed completely, since he never triggered the famous S rank status window. Instead of a normal attribute screen, all that was left imprinted in his mind was the annoying sound of a critical system error. As he tries to make sense of his situation, the blonde girl walks into the room and asks, relieved if he finally woke up. The guy gets a massive fright and is left completely speechless as he recognizes the girl right in front of him. She walks elegantly through the room, right in front of him. She walks elegantly through the room, dressed in fine, high-quality clothes. That's Shinji, an incredibly beautiful girl with blonde hair, green eyes, and one of the best looks in this world. Seo Yul lets her name slip, leaving the young woman utterly surprised and suspicious that he already knows her. The guy realizes he's made a huge mistake, remembering that she's the main heir to the Shinhwa group, the biggest empire in that world. She is also described as a young prodigy who masters martial arts and academics, being the top student at the prestigious military academy. In the original novel, she didn't accept that the protagonist had entered the academy so advantageously due to his special ability. Because of that, she ended up becoming his biggest rival and the heroine of the story, always facing off against him. He doesn't get why she's in the room, while she says she already figured he'd recognize her first. The guy is totally lost with her attitude and just lets out a sound of doubt. To his utter disbelief, the proud heiress kneels in reverence on the floor and calls him ancestor. The guy is left with his mouth open and eyes wide, unable to process that weird scene. As he tries to wrap his head around this madness, the girl bows her head in respect and says it's an honor to meet the legendary ancestor of the elves. Seo Yul starts to think when he hears the term ancestor of the elves, and remembers that there was a similar detail in the story written by his friend. It all started around 10,000 years ago, when unique races like dwarves, dragons, and vampires competed to survive in the world. Amidst all that, South Korea was the home of the elves, who lived united around the mystical world tree. But the boy can't grasp why he's considered the legendary ancestor of these magical creatures. Just then, Shinji approaches him with a sweet smile and gently touches his shoulder. He asks the boy's permission and gently points to his left shoulder. When he pulls back the hospital gown to look, he's shocked to find a bright green mark drawn on his skin. Seo Yul is impressed to notice that this mysterious design is the true sacred emblem of the elves. The kid wonders how it got there, but the girl gently asks him not to worry. The blonde explains that the existence of that sacred crest on her body is a secret known only to her and a very few elite members of her clan. She smiles and says that she no longer needs to hide her secret identity, leaving him confused by the unexpected turn of events. Blushing with embarrassment, she realizes that she's making a huge misunderstanding about who he really is. Before he can say anything, she grips his hands tightly, startling the boy with the sudden approach. Zenjia flashes a radiant smile and asks if it was really him, the ancestor who defeated the feared villain at the festival La Rubia, describing him heroically as the mystical savior who awoke from the world tree to save everyone from a great threat. She reveals that she used her entire family's spy network and found no records of him, as if he had literally been born from the tree itself, concerned about the course of history. He tries to push her hands away and stammers that the idea of being a savior elf is absurd. The girl glances back for a moment, leaving the boy quite curious about her reaction. She approaches again, holding a decorated wooden box, and asks if he's really sure he's not an elf. Shinji unlocks the metal lock on the box, while Seo Yul nervously watches what she's about to do. She reveals an ancient relic, passed down through generations in her family, and asks the boy to try to equip the object called Forest Calm. The boy tenses up at first, but soon realizes that this situation might be perfect to prove that he's not the ancestor. He grins confidently, knowing he'll prove he's human by being unable to use the elven artifact, and thus clear up all the confusion. He takes the precious artifact in his hand and tells him that nothing is happening, trying to prove his point that he is an ordinary human. However, to his utter horror, the brooch begins to glow intensely in his hands and emit green rays. The kid freaks out and screams, not understanding why the artifact is reacting to his body. A massive wave of energy starts to invade his chest, while a system error warning appears before him. Seeing that green light, he suddenly starts to remember something very important. He remembers feeling that exact same magical tingling sensation just before passing out at the festival. The girl points, surprised, and warns that the crest on her shoulder started to glow intensely, scaring the boy. She's amazed by what she sees, while Yul desperately realizes that none of this was in the original book. The boy panics as he sees the relic glow and wonders what the hell is happening to his own body. It's incredible to him that someone who couldn't even open a status window is tuning into an ancient relic and making things worse. He doesn't know what to do with the girl, remembering that the defeated villain was the arch-nemesis who took her mother's life. In the original story of the book, Shinji was only supposed to find out much later who the hero was that defeated the one responsible for what happened to his mother. With the course of events totally thrown off early, the kid decides he needs to take control of the situation to save himself. He takes a firm and serious stance, demanding that the girl never reveal to anyone what she witnessed in that room. Trying to buy some time, he agrees to play along and confirms to the blonde that he is indeed the legendary ancestor of her people. The kid makes up the lie that the soul of her mother woke him from his deep sleep to defeat the villain, but that it ended up exhausting almost all of his spiritual power. He tells her that he will need to rest for a while in his human form and asks for something to eat, making her rush to help him. The young heiress cheerfully bids him farewell and asks her fake ancestor to wait just a moment. Julie lets out a relieved sigh as he sees her excitedly run out of the room, happy that she has completely bought his improvised lie. It's weird that the most influential and powerful girl in this world is serving him with such devotion. Suddenly, the boy's vision glitches and he lets out a cry of horror. The golden artifact suddenly sparks with electricity and is thrown from the protagonist's hand. He presses his right hand to his chest, startled by that violent and painful reaction from his own body. He realizes that the brooch flew out of his hand as if rejecting his presence, making him wonder if he can't control that power. However, the tingling sensation of green energy that lingered on his fingers felt strangely familiar. The boy instantly recalls the image of that beautiful elf he found in his mind while he was unconscious. He's sure he used an elf's power and starts to suspect he's been given another, much more mystical, special ability. As he looks at the mystical crest on his shoulder, he realizes that maybe he can master the unique powers of all the other races of that world. Shinji enters the room, pushing a food cart and asks smilingly if his ancestor has been waiting long. He apologizes politely and promises to serve the food soon, leaving Yul quite uncomfortable with all the attention. As she approaches, the boy worries about the different direction his relationship with Shinji has taken compared to the original story. Yul's heart races with nerves as he realizes that the beautiful young woman's face is way too close to his. She serves a special soup prepared by the academy's director, hoping the dish will be to his liking. The guy suddenly looks surprised and tells her to wait when he hears the name of the place they are in. Yul asks, intrigued, if they are really at the Academy for Superhumans. Shinji just smiles in a friendly and welcoming way towards the boy. She starts to walk around the room while the protagonist takes the opportunity to savor the delicious soup. Just then, the girl opens the hospital room curtains, revealing the strong daylight. Yul stops eating for a moment and looks in awe at the light that fills the room. With a single glance, he looks in awe at the brightness that fills the room. With a beautiful smile on his face, Shinji gives him the official welcome. He gestures towards the window to present the Grand Academy for Superhumans. The young woman explains that this room belongs to the Academy Hospital, where the Shinhwa group offers elite medical services. Ciel flashes a confident smile, realizing that this situation can help her follow the original story much better than she expected. The kid starts wolfing down the food straight from the plate, leaving the girl completely impressed with his appetite. Shinji worries as he sees him stand up, but the boy says he's good thanks to her and calls her over to talk. He walks right up to her and tells her he needs to ask her a huge favor. Sometime later, the scene shows the beautiful and enormous complex that makes up the entire school. Some students excitedly murmur, confirming the rumor that Shinji would actually enroll in the academy this year. Everyone praises Shinji's flawless beauty and starts to wonder who the incredibly handsome guy walking beside her is. One of the students watches from afar and recognizes Seo-yul as the guy from a previous event. The group of young allies stare at Seo-yul, surprised to see him walk by. Seo-yul gives a slight sideways smile, keeping a calm demeanor amidst all the stares. He gazes at the school's facade, knowing his journey there is finally beginning, high above the building. A girl with a funny hat excitedly comments that all the students seem to have already gathered down there. Next, she jumps from the top of the building, floating in a bright magical aura. She glides gently down to the courtyard and welcomes everyone to the academy's opening ceremony. The girl cheerfully asks everyone to give their all to become excellent superhumans. This is how Seo Julie's new school life at the academy officially begins. Later, inside the tech facilities, some students start to murmur in surprise, looking in the same direction. The guy struts confidently in his school uniform, basking in the compliments and giggles of the girls who find him very handsome. However, the atmosphere shifts completely when someone notices that all the boys' attributes are rank F, leaving Seo-yul affected, desperate. He drops to his knees as he remembers that, unfortunately, his current state is, in fact, the worst of all. He remembers that the entrance ceremony is divided in 3 parts, starting with the basic physical attributes test. The second part consists of a written theoretical test to evaluate the knowledge of the new students. And finally, everyone has to go through the combat weapons aptitude test. In the physical strength test that just happened, the kid's performance was a complete disaster, a level F. In the agility test, he tripped and face-planted, earning another F. When trying to use his magical power in front of the evaluator, he barely manages anything and gets another F. He bitterly laments because in the original story, the protagonist dominated everything with his S rank and entered as the top student. Other students mock his weakness, saying that even a grandma could take him down with ease. Seo-yul panics as he realizes his perfect plan to be the top student at the school has been completely ruined. That his perfect plan to be the best student in the school was completely ruined. However, he suddenly looks away as he feels something unusual happening in the place. He sees Shinji glowing intensely with green energy and is amazed by the absurd amount of mana she has. The instructor evaluates Zenjia's test result and loudly announces that the girl's magical power is rank B. Everyone around is blown away to learn that a newbie already has magical power on par with the instructors themselves. A guy thinks about hitting on her, but his friend warns him that the heir of the Shinhwa group lives in a totally different world than them. To everyone's surprise, the beautiful young woman suddenly greets Seo-yul in a very friendly manner. She flashes a sweet smile with her eyes closed towards her supposed ancestor, completely ignoring his lowly state. Seo-yul internally panics and wishes she wouldn't keep looking at him with that waiting for a compliment expression. 2 tough guys stare at him and ask if there's some secret relationship between him and the famous heiress. They start to mock Seo-yul, saying she was probably just laughing at him for getting such bad grades. Suddenly, Shania approaches menacingly, causing the 2 guys to stop laughing instantly. One of them tries to be nice, congratulating the young woman on the incredible B rank results she got on the magic test. With a gaze that is incredibly cold and terrifying, she asks why he is extending that dirty hand in her direction. The guys freak out completely at her hostility, while Seo-yul realizes that this is the Shinji from the original story. The kid feels relieved for asking her not to call him ancestor, avoiding the situation from getting even more suspicious. The instructor announces the end of the physical attributes test and warns that the next stage is about to begin. All the students take their seats at their desks to begin the dreaded written theory exam. The instructor explains that the exam will test the students' general knowledge, since brute power is useless without wisdom to wield it. While some grumble about having to take a written test, Julie gets ready, focused, with a pen in hand. The kid tenses up, remembering that this theory test wasn't even detailed in the original book he was reading. Knowing his physical attributes are terrible, he decides he needs to ace this exam to make up for it. He starts typing the answers quickly on the digital device, showing total focus on the test. Suddenly, the kid himself is amazed by what's happening as he takes the exam. Another student looks on intrigued, while Julie notices, surprised, that his own hand just won't stop writing. He realizes that he knows all the answers because he's read the original book several times, giving him a real shot at coming in first place. The stern instructor slams his fist on the student's desk, accusing him of cheating off his neighbor, sternly warns him that a true overhuman should not act this way, and disqualifies the kid on the spot. The true superhuman shouldn't act like that and disqualifies the kid on the spot. The kid desperately tries to justify himself, calling the instructor Fabius, but the man stands firm in his decision. With a swift gesture and using his magic, the instructor shuts the student up instantly and demands silence. The man apologizes for the disturbance, but Joe calmly informs him that he has already finished the exam. Instructor Fabius looks at him, surprised, wondering if the kid actually managed to finish the whole test. He warns Yul that rushing through the exam like that and being careless would only make his F-rank history worse. However, upon reviewing the boy's answers on the digital panel, the instructor's expression turns to absolute shock. Yul looks curious as the man hesitates, seeming pretty impressed with what he just saw. The man steps in, intimidating, and snaps. Who the hell does he think he is? Yul tries to keep his cool, knowing all too well the strict nature of this instructor. The kid flashes a confident smile, knowing exactly what he needs to do to take control of the situation. He stands up with a firm posture and introduces himself as the man who will one day become the greatest of all superhumans. With eyes shining with determination, he asks the instructor to watch his growth closely from that point on. Instructor Fabio smiles, satisfied, remarking that the kid's spirit is even more impressive than his perfect score. The guy says he can't wait to see it, as Yul mentally celebrates having won him over. The kid feels confident that his vast knowledge of the original story will help him triumph in that world. Shortly after, a great commotion starts among the students as they realize the grades for the theoretical exam have been posted. Everyone is shocked to see that the first place got a perfect score of 100, even suspecting a system error. Yul celebrates with pride seeing his name at the top of the written exam ranking. He knows that guarantees him a good position and focuses all his attention on the final test that remains. Just then, a young guy with green hair and glasses shows up, manipulating an intense blue energy in front of everyone. With an imposing movement, he summons a gigantic arsenal of floating weapons right in the middle of the hallway. The rookies are completely blown away and amazed to see a whole arsenal appear out of thin air. The kid with glasses kindly introduces the official start of the weapons aptitude test. He announces that those who don't have their own gear can freely choose any available weapon there. Yul remembers that the hero of the original book used a one-handed sword, but starts to consider what choice would be better for him. He remembers the green magical energy of the elf, and wonders if a bow wouldn't be the ideal choice for his combat. Suddenly, Shinji appears right beside him and whispers the word ancestor very close to his ear, leaving him blushing, totally embarrassed. The boy pleads softly for him not to call him that out of the blue in such a public place. The girl smiles happily and congratulates him on first place in the test, saying she already expected such an incredible feat from him. She jokes that she faked being weak in the physical test on purpose, leaving Jul disappointed to know that his weakness is real. Shinji extends his hand, offering an elegant bow to Jul, and gently asks him to use that weapon in the test. The bow has a refined metallic sheen with perfect curves and is made of an extremely durable metal. The boy immediately recognizes it as Eliseo's precious bow, and the girl happily confirms that she prepared the item especially for him. She admits she wants to see the boy, to show off her real skills so the other students finally stop underestimating him. With a lot of enthusiasm, the girl clenches her fist and gives him all the support to cheer on her fake ancestor. Siaya thanks her kindly for the support with a friendly smile, holding a valuable weapon in his hands. The kid feels that the bow is incredibly light and has the strange sensation that he's been handling this type of weapon for a long time. Suddenly, a warm green glow starts to radiate directly from Seoju's right shoulder, leaving him stunned. He realizes his right shoulder is intensely reacting to the bow's presence and starts to suspect something very important. However, his thoughts are interrupted when a male voice suddenly calls out to him from behind. The imposing Choi Ji-jun approaches seriously and asks directly, "What's going on here?" Seo-yul recognizes him right away and lets out a worried sigh, thinking that the kid also wants to pick a fight with him. The fighter leans in real close and straight up asks why Seo-yul is hiding his true strength. Ji-han keeps talking seriously, bringing up the incident with the dangerous terrorist that went down in the past. The kid points out with absolute certainty that Seo-yul was the real hero behind that big win. He firmly reaffirms that he is absolutely certain that Seo-yul was the one who took down the villainous inventor. That day, Seo-yul stutters, pretending not to know anything, but he panics inside, realizing that the boy might have seen his fight against the villain Ji-han. He vividly remembers the moment he saw a mysterious warrior wield that colossal sword amidst the battle. That day, the mysterious fighter used only one hand to deliver a devastating blow with the heavy iron weapon. The hunter explains that Seo-yul managed to pick up and wield effortlessly the black iron sword that he himself had dropped to the ground. Ji-han emphasizes that this colossal weapon requires at least an A in physical strength for someone to even handle it. He says it was already a big surprise to see him at the academy, but he finds it really weird that he only got F's on the physical test. Pissed off by all this mystery, Ji-han demands that the kid cut the crap and spill what he's up to. Meanwhile, Shin Ji-ai bursts in, shouting his name. The heir of the Shinhwa group orders him to mind his own business and calls him a degenerate elf quite harshly. Offended, he asks what she just said. As the girl provokes him, calling him a little brat from the Sicilian group, he panics, realizing that the heirs of the two biggest rival companies in the country are about to fight right before his eyes. Ju-hoon accepts the challenge to fight right there, but his teammates rush to hold him back and calm the situation. Meanwhile, Seo-yul puts a hand on Shinji's shoulder and gently asks her to calm down to avoid trouble. Just then, the instructor announces over the loudspeaker that the next cadet to take the practical test is Choi Ji-han. The kid walks away, pushed by his friends, but warns Seo-yul that he'll be watching his every move. Jia complains a lot about how annoying the kid is, while Seo-yul remembers that they were already major rivals in the original book story. The protagonist realizes that the hunter is much smarter than he thought and decides he'll need to be extremely careful with his secret. The instructor remarks in surprise about the young hunter's choice of the heavy and valuable black iron sword as his specialty weapon. Next, a mystical training robot is summoned in the middle of the arena so the boy can show off his skills. The combat robot charges at high speed towards the hunter, who calmly awaits the opponent's approach. With extreme ease, Ji-han blocks the first hit from the robot using the blade of his heavy iron sword. Then he lands a powerful kick to the chest of the mechanical opponent to create space for his next attack. The warrior lets out a mighty battle cry and raises his enormous sword with both hands to deliver a fatal blow. With a swift and devastating vertical slash, he cuts the training robot in half, generating a massive blue energy wave. The spectators cheer in awe as they watch the robot get sliced so easily, praising Ji-hoon's monstrous skill. The evaluator praises his immense destructive power, but mockingly comments that his techniques still waste the potential of the sacred weapon. The hunter clicks his tongue, clearly annoyed by the criticism, while the audience in the background continues to cheer his performance. However, the tension returns to the courtyard the moment the evaluator loudly calls out the cadet's name. Shinji wishes good luck to his supposed ancestor with a beautiful smile on his face, and the boy only responds quite nervously. An instructor with an eye patch approaches the boy with the clipboard in hand and asks if he is really King Seo-yul. After confirming his identity, she bluntly states that he is the infamous cadet who only got F's on the attribute test. The woman chews him out, accusing him of not trying and disrespecting the school, leaving the kid totally embarrassed. However, He focuses on the tingling he felt in his right shoulder as he held the bow, remembering the blessing he received from the world tree. The boy prepares to shoot with the bow, confident that that incredible green magical energy will manifest at any moment. The instructor warns that the target is positioned 1,000 meters away and, sighing, asks him to at least try to hit it. Suddenly, she widens her purple eye, noticing a sudden change in the young cadet's stance and energy. Yahello pulls the bowstring with extreme precision as a powerful green aura begins to envelop his body. With an imposing shot, he releases the arrow, generating a magical gust of wind that impresses everyone around. The arrow flies at incredible speed and hits the dead center of the distant target with surgical precision. The boy flashes a victorious smile as he realizes the blessing of the world tree has truly awakened in his body and worked perfectly. The instructor looks confused, not understanding how someone with such low strength and mana attributes can use such energy. Without hesitation, Yahello lands another perfect shot, hitting the target right in the same spot as the previous one. Some cadets mock, thinking he missed the second shot, since only one arrow is seen stuck in the center of the target. Choi Ji-hoon looks at them with contempt and asks if they've gone blind for not seeing what really happened. He tells the boys to look closely just below the structure where the target is attached. To everyone's amazement, the second shot was so perfect that it split the first arrow in half, causing the pieces to fall to the ground. The entire audience is in absolute shock, screaming in disbelief at the legendary feat that seemed impossible to achieve. Shinji clasps his hands and shows a smile of pure joy, proud to see that his hunch about the ancestor was right. Keeping his calm and mysterious stance, Yahello holds the bow like a true expert warrior. The kid makes another quick move and lands a new, bright magical shot right on target. The precision is so absurd that the new arrow splits the one stuck in the center perfectly in half once again. The third shot lands perfectly in the dead center of the target, leaving all the pieces of the previous arrows scattered. The students fall into despair and shout in disbelief at seeing that flawless sequence of surgical bullseyes. Suddenly, the archery instructor rushes over to Yahello and grabs his shoulder, super excited. She profusely apologizes and praises the kid with fervor, regretting that the highest grade she can give him is only an A. She admits that her heart hasn't raced like this in years, leaving Yahello startled, as he can't recall this dangerous character from the book. The kid grins confidently, feeling the immense power in his right shoulder, realizing he'll triumph even without the status window. Several girls start to praise his skills and whisper that the boy's beauty definitely deserves an S-rank maximum rating. Seeing the other girls fawning over Yahello, Shinji's expression darkens, feeling it's wrong to see so much attention on him. The directors take the stage and announce the end of the trials, concluding the academy's opening ceremony without any further incidents. With the test over, Yahello heads excitedly to his new individual student dorm within the school campus. He's blown away by the size of the luxurious apartment and celebrates that the place is infinitely better than his old digs. As he explores the amenities, he lets out a joyful shout when he notices that the bathroom even has a beautiful, super cool luxury tub. The young man starts to undress with the plan to take a very hot bath and have an excellent night of relaxing sleep. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the castle, someone gently knocks on the door of the academy's principal office. The masked Pyajin Ho opens the polished wooden door and invites the mysterious visitor into his chamber. The instructor greets the young director to deliver a confidential report, and she warmly thanks him for his excellent work. With a cheerful smile, the girl asks if the new information he brought is about the performance of the rookies. He confirms and reveals that the matter is specifically about Kang Yahello, causing the director to remember the kid who scored 0 on the physical test. She remembers that same kid scored the highest in the written test and got an excellent evaluation with praise in the weapons test. The instructor confirms the facts and questions if the kid isn't deliberately hiding his true physical abilities. The director finds the idea of a secret warrior amusing, but Jing-ho quickly dismisses it seriously. He explains that his physical weakness is real, revealing that the boy's arms trembled with exhaustion to pull the bowstring, with his right eye glowing intensely blue. The seasoned hunter reminds the director of her unique ability to analyze targets. She understands the situation and asks for his opinion on the contradictory mystical abilities demonstrated by Kang Seo-yul. He suspects the kid might have a divine archery skill or even the legendary weapon master trait. Hearing that shocking revelation from the instructor, the young director shows a rather mysterious and mischievous smile. Finding all of this intriguing, she orders the hunter to keep a close eye on every step Seo-yul takes in the academy from now on. The white-haired warrior confirms that was his plan and warns that he'll put the kid under his intensive observation program. Unaware of all this spying, Seo-yul sleeps soundly face down, snoring peacefully after his long and exhausting day. After a long and exhausting day, the bespectacled teacher starts the class by explaining that the primary duties of a superhuman are divided into 3 parts. The instructor asks if any student knows how to answer what those divisions are, and Shin Jia hurriedly raises his hand to respond. She explains that the 2 fundamental categories are saving lives and safely exploring dangerous dungeons. Finally, the heir concludes that the 3rd major duty of everyone is the complete eradication of dangerous monsters and villains. The professor confirms Shinji's answer and warns that today's class will specifically focus on the villains. Asks if everyone there knows about the recent terrorist attack that happened at the World Tree Festival, leaving Seo-yul quite tense. The teacher displays an image of Yahello, the inventor, explaining that he was capable of neutralizing even S-rank heroes. He says that the consequences would have been a national disaster if a mysterious hero hadn't shown up in time to stop him. Feeling a gaze on him, Seo-yul glances sideways and notices that Choi Ji-jun is staring at him. Realizing he had been caught staring, the fighter quickly averted his gaze to hide his interest. Shinji gives a thumbs up, making Seo-yul think that maybe things will go well at school. The teacher takes the floor again and declares that the academy has only one main goal, guarantees that the aim is to make sure everyone defeats any villain they face, and asks that they trust and follow their instructor's directions. Seo-yul eagerly smiles, wondering what will happen next, as he listens to a classmate boast that he would have taken down the inventor easily. The proud kid boasts that he would have ripped the villain's head off, making his friends laugh at his typical bravado. Seo-yul's eyes widen in shock as he hears the name Choi Kang-im mentioned in the midst of the chatter. The guys keep laughing and cracking dumb jokes as they whisper during the lecture. Seo-yul starts to recall the terrible future events that directly involve the fate of that smiling kid. Remember that because of Choi Kang-im, a real bloodbath is about to go down in the academy halls any minute. The scene shifts to the next class with instructor Pai-jin-ho, who calmly explains that level F is the lowest of all. He explains that even within the F range, the values vary from 1 to 99 and is necessary to hit the max score to level up. Seo-yul watches the presentation attentively, listening to the instructor say that the power difference between level F and level S is enormous. The kid glances to the side and sees Choi Kang-im sleeping soundly, recalling that in the book, the tragedy would occur a week after the opening. In the novel story, dozens of innocent young cadets would tragically lose their lives under that boy's sharp blade. But in reality, it would all be the work of a monster known as the doppelganger, who murdered the real Choi Kang-im to take his form. Seo-yul realizes that by having this crucial information, he has a real chance to step in and prevent this terrible tragedy from happening. He puts his hand to his forehead, trying to come up with a plan to warn the kid, until he suddenly hears his name called out loud. The instructor Pai-jin-ho stares at him seriously from the middle of the classroom, accusing Seo-yul of not paying any attention to the explanation given. The kid jumps up, nervous, wondering if he's being called out just for acing the written exam before. Seo-yul notices with frustration that he can't hide anything from that piercing gaze, as the professor demands that he answer a question. The instructor lists the attributes, skills, and traits, demanding that Seo-yul name the last crucial variable that defines a warrior's rank. With a focused expression, the boy thinks for a brief moment before coming up with the correct answer to the question. He responds with conviction and firmness that the last crucial variable are the items equipped by the warrior. Figuring that was a pretty easy question for him, the professor decides to up the difficulty with a new challenge. Show the image of the legendary levitating S-rank sword, warning that its requirements and powers are absurdly terrifying. He turns to the whole class and throws out an intriguing theoretical challenge to make all the cadets think. Asks who would win a duel between a rank B warrior with an S rank sword and a rank S hero wielding a simple iron blade. Choi Ji-jun butts in with arrogance and immediately responds that the rank S warrior would obviously be the winner of the fight. He argues that having a good item alone would never be enough to overcome a two-full rank difference in physical attributes. The instructor Pyajin Ho coldly eyes him upon hearing the meddlesome response from the dark-haired youth. With a chilling tone, the master directly asks the arrogant fighter if anyone had asked for his opinion. There, Jihin swallows his anger, while the professor softens and says that answering with confidence, at least, shows a good attitude. Next, the instructor turns to Seo-jul and asks if he agrees with the answer given by his classmate. The kid rests his chin and thinks hard before starting to lay out his unique take on it. Duel. Seo-jul agrees in part, but declares that he doesn't believe the rank S warrior would always come out on top. The other students start to mock his response, muttering with disdain that it's just a silly delusion, typical of a weak level F. The teacher ignores the class's laughter and questions the boy about the reason he thinks that way, so unusually. He explains that even though the physical distance is enormous, the difference in raw power between a level B equipment and a level S is also colossal. It was pointed out that a B weapon would shatter at the slightest touch against an S, leaving the S hero disarmed and giving the B rank fighter the victory. The professor is blown away and congratulates the kid on his sharp insight, confirming to everyone that his answer is spot on. Add that the fight has many variables and that a warrior must know how to use his resources well. As Shinya gives another nod of approval, the man wraps up with an important warning, telling the class to never blindly trust only in their own stats. Asks if everyone understood the important message, and the entire class responds in unison and respectfully in a loud voice. After the end of the theoretical explanation, tranquility temporarily returns to the vast facilities of the academy. Walking thoughtfully down the hallway, Seo-jul reflects on the countless abilities, traits, and powerful items that exist in this world. Since she doesn't have the famous S rank status window to dominate everything easily, she needs to use other means to get stronger. The kid realizes he's ended up with a totally unique and mysterious ability linked to the sacred mark on his shoulder. Thanks to a weird system glitch, he can now completely ignore any equipment requirements for items. As he tries to figure out his top priorities, a sudden noise from the hallway catches his attention. Looking ahead, he spots Choi Kang-eum chatting animatedly with another guy halfway down the wide hallway. Seo-jul decides he needs to act fast and give the kid a heads up about the doppelganger monster danger. He approaches with intonation and calls out the student's name, who turns around confused, not understanding the reason for the call. The kid mocks his F-rank reputation, but Seo-jul brushes off the jab and insists he's got something major to tell him. Choi Kang-eum asks what impatiently, causing the protagonist to hesitate on how to bring up the delicate topic. Think about the disaster it would be to just come out and say the kid is going to be brutally murdered by a monster imposter in a week. The kid freaks out, realizing it would be impossible to explain the origin of such absurd and secret information without raising suspicions. Seo-jul decides he'll need to beat around the bush in the conversation as the two students start to look scared by his suspicious behavior. The protagonist points his finger firmly at the young man and orders him directly not to stop by the casino this weekend. Kang-eum's friend lets out a relieved sigh, admitting that for a moment, he thought the crazy kid was about to confess his feelings. However, Choi Kang-eum reacts with rage, questioning if the protagonist is threatening to rat him out to the directors about his gambling addiction. He storms forward and grabs Seo-jul by the collar of his uniform, demanding to know how she found out about his secret casino trips. The thug vents, saying he's always hated him and calls him a nobody with no power or influence for digging into his past. While Seo-jul is outraged by having his life investigated, the attacker shouts angrily about the protagonist's attempts to get close to Shin-ja. Completely out of his mind, he screams with envy, saying he'd also like to hold hands and walk with the beautiful heiress of the group, Shinhwa Seo-jul. She only turns her face in disgust, complaining about the kid's terrible breath. not realizing that Shenjia has just appeared right behind them. Before she can react, Shenjia steps in with a cutting question about who would want to hold hands with a jerk like him. With extreme speed and force, he delivers a devastating kick that sends the bully flying for not even brushing his teeth properly. The aggressor hits the ground, knocked out cold, and lies flat on the cold hallway floor, leaving his teammate in a state of total panic. Shinji instantly switches to a sweet expression and asks tenderly if his beloved ancestor is okay and unharmed. Sayo Yul just stares at her, sweating bullets, completely shocked by the sudden and extreme violence shown by the girl. The poor guy Choi Kangim ends up in the school hospital, bawling his eyes out with his body and mind totally shattered by fear. Sayo Yul is astonished to find that no punishment was given to the girl, finding it a bit terrifying the immense influence of her family. With the bully locked up in the hospital, the protagonist notices relieved that his murder at the hands of the doppelganger in the casino was avoided. However, he knows full well that this change of plans will bring new consequences to the original story's course. He seriously focuses as he realizes that the future scenario was completely altered by the actions he took in the hallway. The kid worries knowing the doppelganger won't back down from the attack and will just pick another innocent victim in the casino. He leans his head back, worried, knowing he needs to stop the monster and that he's the only one at school who can do it. His deep thoughts are suddenly interrupted when he hears the announcement of his name for the next practical activity. Instructor Paijin Ho points to the digital panel and loudly announces that Seo Yo's opponent in the combat training will be Choi Ji-han. The students start to murmur anxiously at the revelation, while the professor orders the class to head straight to the training field. Seo Yul panics internally and wonders why he had to face the most dangerous and distrustful fighter in the class. The kid acknowledges that it would be impossible to beat Ji-han physically, remembering that the strength and attributes of the opponent are absurdly high. He knows that with his low rank F attributes, even if he shot 100 arrows, he wouldn't be able to cause any real damage to his opponent. For all the spectators in the stands, that fight in the training arena already has an obvious and guaranteed winner in a very easy way, as he hears malicious giggles from his peers, mocking how many seconds the fight will last. Seo Yul walks, preparing for a humiliating defeat. The young man sighs dejectedly, bow in hand, but Professor Paijin Ho calls him aside before he officially enters the fighting arena. To Seo Yul's complete surprise, the mysterious white-haired professor extends his arm and offers him a sheathed knife to use. He seriously advises him that even archers should carry a short dagger to defend themselves in close-quarters combat. Seo Yul shyly thanks him as he accepts the dagger, impressed to see this cold man show so much concern for his well-being. The master then orders both cadets to enter the magical force field of the arena immediately to begin the official duel. He says that the safety protocols are fully active, ensuring that neither of them will suffer serious injuries during the fight. However, the professor clarifies that the protective barrier doesn't cancel out physical pain, and that they will feel all the impacts of the blows. With the two fighters properly positioned and focused, the masked professor gives the official order to start the much-anticipated duel. Seo Yul closes his eyes and takes a deep breath, getting ready to test the mysterious power he gained from the World Tree glitch. Seo Yul psychs himself up for the fight, thinking his best bet is to keep his distance. The moment the professor gives the signal to start, Choi Jian rushes forward against the protagonist. The kid's plan is to keep as much distance as possible from his opponent and attack from afar with his arrows. He quickly pulls an arrow and prepares to make the first shot against the opponent. Before he can even fire, Choi Ji-jun appears right in front of him at an absurd speed, leaving Seo Yul stunned. The opponent delivers a powerful strike from above with his massive iron sword. Jian is a bit surprised by the speed of Seo Yul's reaction, managing to dodge the direct attack. As the protagonist hits the ground, terrified, the rival walks towards him menacingly and asks if he's really a level F. He questions with skepticism if the kid is really just a lowly rank F with such low attributes. Jian starts to wonder if he was imagining things last time, seeing Seo Yul fallen and complaining of pain on the floor. Seo Yul feels frustrated by feeling so helpless and notices just how big the difference in physical attributes is between them. The opponent raises his sword again and says he's gone too far, promising to end this soon so he won't be embarrassed anymore. The crowd in the stands starts to jeer at Seo Yul, saying the fight was boring and that he should be ashamed of the insults. A strong feeling of indignation and determination begins to rise within the heart of the protagonist. Seeing the sword coming down at him, Seo Yul remembers that he can't actually die in this protected arena. He decides to use all his strength and reaches out to grab the short dagger given to him by his instructor. With a shout of detonation, he draws the weapon as his eyes begin to glow with an intense green light. Suddenly, a mysterious green energy starts to radiate from his entire body, leaving the young man himself confused. He realizes that the entire scene around him has simply vanished and wonders what is going on. The boy smells a forest sent in a gentle breeze, just like the time he communicated with the world tree. He hears a spiritual voice telling him to give his body to the path of Vento, as he has received the divine blessing. Intrigued by those mysterious words, the protagonist mentally repeats the name of the path of the wind. With his vision completely altered, he notices that he can clearly see the red trail of the enemy's attack. He raises the dagger, which begins to glow intensely in his hands, ready to act. The young man sees the perfect trajectory needed to cut in, completely neutralize that hostile blow coming his way. Focused on following that exact path, drawn by the breeze of the wind, he prepares to move. Without hesitation, he fully commits to the flow of air and lands a precise strike to deflect the attack. The colossal impact between the two weapons creates a deafening sound that echoes across the entire training field. Choi Ji-jun is blown back by the force of the deflection and stares at the protagonist with an expression of extreme surprise. The students in the stands are blown away seeing a rank F block the legendary iron sword of an opponent with force level. As the other cadets shout in amazement, Shen Jia watches everything enchanted and murmurs with pride the name of her beloved ancestor. Choi Ji-hun gets extremely pissed off at the block and grits his teeth in rage at being stopped like that. Seo Yul stares at his dagger, unable to comprehend how he managed to pull off such a perfect defensive move. But there's no time to dwell on it. But there's no time to think, as the opponent is already recovering and charging forward to attack again. With her eyes glowing green, Seo Yul focuses to predict the trajectory of each of her opponent's strikes. A quick sequence of blows is executed, and the protagonist manages to block them all with skill and precision. Despite the success, she acknowledges that her low stats only allow her to defend, and that there are no opportunities to counterattack. He knows full well that his hands would be in pieces if the magical energy field wasn't absorbing the brutal impacts. He grips his short dagger tightly and blocks another violent attack, sparks flying from the force of the impact. Outside the protective barrier of the arena, the instructor watches everything with extreme attention and silence. The experienced white-haired trainer wonders if this is the limit of Seo Yul's hand-to-hand combat skills. Filled with rage, Choi Ji-jun screams at the protagonist to get out of his way as he pushes his attack even harder. At that critical moment of pure pressure, Seo Yul has a sudden revelation, and his eyes light up intensely. The kid finally realizes that the breeze isn't blowing in from outside, but is emanating directly from his own body. Determined to harness that power, the kid decides to go with the flow of the wind's energy to make his next move. With astonishing speed, he ducks under the opponent's guard and lands a solid hit to his chest. The opponent freezes in shock, staring in horror at the blade of the protagonist's dagger pressed directly against his chest. The crowd gasps at Seo Yul's speed, while Shen Jia watches in awe, breathless with admiration for the sheer physical effort. Seo Yul sighs and mutters that was exactly what he had expected. The protagonist silently laments knowing his physical strength is so low that he wouldn't even be able to break through the opponent's defense. Seo Yul ends up getting hit by a powerful kick from his opponent directly in. His chest hits the ground of the arena, unable to withstand the impact of that counterattack. The instructor calls the match and loudly announces Choi Ji-hun's official victory. As the protagonist gets up, groaning in pain, the students continue to murmur, amazed at his performance. The archery instructor comments, impressed about how he managed to show such mastery with the short dagger, suggests that he might have faked his attribute stats, but instructor PO immediately dismisses that theory. The master in the black mask assures that his muscular movements and reflexes were, in fact, in line with an F rank. He reaffirms that the kid's attributes are terrible and that there's only one logical explanation for that to happen. The coach concludes that the kid has a freakishly unusual trait that defies the system's rules. He reflects that if the kid had only C-level attributes, he would easily be able to reach the top of the world ranking daily.